Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and today we're going to talk about getting out of the financial trap. I got a message, a Black Wealth confession from a brother who basically said that he is in the student loan debt trap, which is a big deal. A lot of people getting caught in that. And I'm going to break that down for you a little bit. We've talked about student loans on here before, and so I'm not going to go in extreme detail about everything, but on this Black Wealth confession, I want to kind of talk about this. There's a teacher who emailed me and said that he's $100,000 in student loan debt, and they were supposed to cancel the debt, and they didn't. And the reason they didn't cancel the debt is because these people will lie to you, and I'm gonna just kind of break some of that down for. So do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe button. Shout out the city that you're from. How you doing? The Smoke One Show. He says, I like this. Well, I like you too. I appreciate you. All right. So let me read the question in the comment. And I'm not going to be here for very long today, but I will pop in and kind of give you a quick perspective on this. So this message comes from a brother who says that he has $100,000 in student loan debt. And the question is as follows. He said, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Boyce. I'm a math teacher who's $100K in student loan debt. I was told that because I'm a math teacher, my loans will be forgiven. Well, federal loans has loopholes that they don't tell you about, which has stopped my forgiveness. Now I owe 120 months of payments, that's about 10 years worth, while staying in my field as a public school educator before the loans are canceled. I'm making sure my sons don't make this mistake, but how do I save, invest, retire on a teacher's salary? So that's a great question. And by the way, if you have a question you want to submit to me, feel free to send it to blackwealthconfessions.com and I'll answer it on Financial Juneteenth TV. So here's what I'm gathering. Okay, so it sounds to me like this person took on a bunch of student loan debt, about 100,000, so they could become a teacher. Nothing wrong with that. We need teachers. Sounds like he's a black man, which I think is even better because we need black male teachers, right? I personally believe black people should own our own schools. That's where I want to take things to the next level. I believe that the reason that your community can't move forward is because you're letting other people educate your children. You don't give your brain over to your enemy. You don't let your oppressor have access to your children's brains. That's my 2 cents. That's what I believe. But with that being said, though, we do need black teachers in the public school system. The few that are that do get the job. I know a lot of qualified people who can't get hired in the public school system because they're too black. And that's another sign that they're controlling you, is that when you're too black, like Dr. Claude Anderson, one of the greatest black economic thinkers of all time, can't go into a public school because they say, well, that's too black. We don't want that around our children. That's because they want white supremacy in the brains of your kids. What's wrong with Dr. Claude Anderson? What's wrong with Louis Farrakhan? What's wrong with men who think like that? Well, because they think in terms of liberation. Liberation is not allowed for black people who are in a colonialized system. Liberation is considered to be a virus that you're infected with, and they give you the vaccine. The vaccine they give you is a vaccine of white supremacy, where they jab you. They tell you you got to get the jab in order to come through the door, and if you don't get the jab, then you can't come in. So that's what it is. That's what I see. So what I'm seeing here with this brother is he took on the student loans with the plan that they would be forgiven if he became a public school teacher. There's nothing wrong with that. But what he did not know was that there is a requirement typically that he has to pay for 120 months, 10 years. 10 years, that's a long time of being a public school teacher and making consistent payments, and then the debt can be forgiven. Well, I mean, if you chose to become a public school teacher and they're requiring you to give 10 years of service, I don't necessarily know if that's out of the question. I don't know if it's like they're asking you something impossible. I don't know if it's a matter of them having just screwed you. I don't think they screwed you. But I do think, obviously, one lesson to learn is the importance of reading the fine print before you get anything. Nothing comes for free. When they tell you, like, oh, we'll forgive your loans for XYZ, always ask yourself this question. When somebody offers you something, when somebody comes along with a gift horse, and you got to look that gift horse in the mouth. You got to ask yourself, in any deal, any business deal, do you understand what I'm saying? You can never assume that somebody's doing something just to be nice. They're not. It doesn't mean that they're trying to screw you. It just means that they're trying to get something out of it. Like, why would you think that anybody would just come along and give you something and not expect something for themselves or expect to have an agenda? There's always an agenda that's attached to money. Money always comes with an agenda. The agenda might be something as basic as, look, I just want to feel better about myself because I did something nice for somebody. That's an agenda too, right? But there's always an agenda. And if you don't know the agenda, if you don't think there's an agenda, then that means you don't understand how life works. There's some people I've seen who really feel like the world owes them something, that people are just supposed to come along and do nice stuff for them and get nothing in return. Like they do that in relationships. Oh, you're supposed to just love me because I'm your man. No, you love me. My woman upstairs, my wife, I know she doesn't just love me because I'm her man. She loves me because I bring things to the table that make her life better. It would make no sense for her to love me, stand by me, be loyal to me if I was doing nothing for her. If I wrecked her life and did terrible things to her. No, she found a different man. So understanding both sides of the deal is an important part of doing business with anybody and receiving anything from anyone at any time. When a man comes along, when I was 16 years old, I gave this girl a gift for her birth for it was her birthday, I think. And because she made a joke, she was flirting with me. I thought I kind of liked her, and she said, "Boy, she gonna give me a birthday present." And I was like, "Oh shoot, her birthday's tomorrow. I gotta get her a present." So you know what I did? I found this old camera that was that my parents wasn't using anymore, and I just said, "Okay, I'll give her this camera." Right? So I gave her this camera, but it wasn't like a cheap gift. It wasn't an expensive camera, but it would cost more than like a couple dollars. And her father called me on the phone. Her father's like, "Why'd you give my daughter a camera?" I was like, "Well, because it was her birthday and blah, blah, blah." He's like, no. He's like, "No, you don't give my daughter a camera. What do you want in exchange for that camera?" And I was like, "Oh, no, sir. No. I wasn't there. I was a virgin. I mean, I was scared to death." And he was like, "So tomorrow, my daughter is going to give you that camera back." And I said, "Yes, sir. Absolutely." Right. See, this is what happened. This is what the black community looked like back when you had daddies in every household. You know, they talk about a chicken in every pie. We had a daddy in every household, and the daddy had a certain job, which was to protect the children, one of his jobs, and he was doing the job that fathers do. See, now they got these liberals got y'all thinking you don't need daddies no more. Next thing you know, bad things are happening to the children because the daddy's not there to say, no, that's not happening. No, you're not doing it. What you give my daughter jewelry for? Well, you're not doing that, right? So that's just what it is. That's the honest to God truth. But let me digress. Let me get back to it. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. So let me answer this brother's question more specifically. So you have 10 years required of making consistent student loan payments, and they're going to cancel the debt at that point. That's not a bad deal. That's not a terrible deal. They didn't screw you, in my opinion. It doesn't mean that they lied to you. There are cases, though, where you might think your loans are going to be canceled, and they're not going to be canceled at all, or the conditions are so incredibly extreme that you never get to the point where the cancellation takes place. So those are the situations you got to look out for. But generally, I would say that when you're talking about protecting your kids from the trap that you feel like you're in, I would definitely say that it is important to understand that you don't need to take on a massive amount of debt to go to college. I think that's the fundamental principle that you need to understand. I'm actually going to read to you from a Forbes article that explains the dangers of student loans and why student loans got out of control in the first place. Universities are the primary beneficiaries of student loans. Universities in America have probably taken about $1 trillion of Black wealth out of the Black community because many of you were taught to believe that if you want to get ahead, you go take on a bunch of debt and then you go to somebody's college. You go to some white man's college so he can take all your family wealth and then send you to go work for another white man. So you were literally brought into a sharecropping system. It was a sharecropping kind of situation. Now, with that said, let me read some of this article. And by the way, if you have a Black Wealth Confession, a story you want to share anonymously, just go to blackwealthconfessions.com. Also, don't forget, we're doing that thing on the 23rd. Built something with Jay Morrison called Secrets of the 1%. Jay, he raised $11 million during the pandemic for the Tulsa Fund. I wanted to learn how he did that. So he's actually coming into the Black Business School as a guest. We have about 40 different experts we brought throughout this year. Jay's the next one. So if you're watching on Instagram, you can actually click the link in the bio, or if you want to find that link, just go to boycewatkins.com. I'll put boycewatkins.com on the screen so you can see it. Now, so here's the deal with student loans. One of the things that's interesting about student loans is that according to Forbes, they said that it was actually the increased access to student loans that made them so dangerous. They said increased access to student loans is a double-edged sword. Easy access to federal student loans means more people can attend college and live the American dream. At the same time, college and universities have increased tuition because they know everyone will pay the increased cost to get access to higher education. So what you've basically done is you've increased the amount of financing available for a commodity that is what we refer to in economics. We refer to this as an inelastic commodity. An inelastic commodity is something where even when you increase the price, the demand is still high. So the demand stays high even when the price goes up. So what that's done is it's skyrocketed the cost of tuition. The universities are like, woo! We have this thing that everybody feels like they need, like these jabs that they're selling, with them. It's like a mandate, or like a drug you're addicted to, like crack, right? So we have educational crack, which allows us to live like Nino Brown. They became the Nino Browns of the American economy, where they had more money than they needed because suddenly the government was providing funding for people to get access to this thing called a college degree, where the price was able to go out of control and people still paid it. So the universities were the big winner from this increased access to student loans. It did not help people win. Now, what would have helped the average American win is if they had told the universities, look, we're going to make this money available, but you cannot increase the cost of tuition beyond a certain point. The cost of tuition must only rise with the rate of inflation, or we're not going to support you. They did not do that. And this happens so often in government. They did this with Obamacare. They came in, Obama was actually doing something good when he tried to reform the healthcare system. You guys know, this guy, Obama was our first gay president. Newsweek called him that. I didn't call him that. But in terms of what he did for the LGBT community, it far exceeded anything he did for Black people. Let's just be honest. But he also was a guy who did something good with healthcare. He tried to reform healthcare, and it's impossible, because what he did was he reformed it by providing all these government subsidies, which still allowed the healthcare companies to get rich. When the way they've handled the whole situation with the pandemic, same thing. Healthcare companies are getting paid. Biden is signing multi-billion-dollar checks to these healthcare companies, and it's not doing anything to control the massive price of healthcare. So they're just getting rich off of government money. That's why your government's going bankrupt. Billionaires aren't paying their taxes, and corporations are sucking the government dry. The cost of your government is falling on the backs of American workers. American workers' wages are not going up, so the corporations can make maximum profits, and also you're paying all the taxes. People that own businesses don't pay the taxes. I am a business owner, and I know my accountants know every single trick necessary for me to minimize my tax bill. And there have been years where they sent me my tax bill and I felt guilty because I said, there is no way you can tell me that my income is that low. But when you add in all the write-offs, and they legally write off everything that we're allowed to write off, my income would be so low that I would end up looking like a little old lady who wasn't making any money at all. I deliberately actually allowed my income to increase, and I paid taxes because I wanted to go buy some property, right? Because you have to show this kind of thing in order to buy stuff. But the reality is, at the end of the day, they made it way too easy for business owners and wealthy people to get away with not paying the same taxes that workers pay. And it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. So with that said, let's move on. So the second reason that student loans have gotten bad for America is that they said there's less state support for higher education. This says state support for higher education has declined. While many states facing budget cuts and decreasing tax revenue, states have been unable to offset increasing tuition, room and board at many state colleges and universities. There has been a relative declining value of Pell Grants. As a result, students have relied more heavily on federal student loans and private loans to fund their education. Number 3, PLUS loans are too easy to get. Parent PLUS loans and Graduate PLUS loans are too easy to get, according to the authors of this study that they mentioned in Forbes magazine. I don't have their name in front of me. Parent PLUS loans, which a parent can borrow to pay the cost of his child's school, are only capped by the cost of the school. Again, PLUS loans are not are not based on an ability to repay the loans. Parent PLUS loans, which parents often borrow as they approach retirement age, have the highest interest rate among federal student loans, which can make them prohibitively expensive to repay. Let me just mention this point. A lot of parents can't retire because they borrow so much money to send their children to go to college. You're doing well because you're in your 40s, you're your peak earning years. So you take on the student loans for your child. And then by the time those loans are kicking in and you're trying to repay that, you're going into retirement. Well, now you can't retire because you're giving all your money to the university that's probably going and gentrifying the Black neighborhood by buying property up in the hood. Pay attention now. Go look. Yale University, Syracuse University, where I used to teach. A lot of these universities are right there in the University of Louisville, where our son goes to school. A lot of these universities are right there in the hood. And what they're doing is they're taking all this extra money. USC is notorious for this. They're taking all this extra money they're getting from student loans, and they are buying Black neighborhoods. So they're gentrifying your shit with your money. That's exactly what they're doing. That's the reality. And that's something that I think as Black people, we have to pay close attention to, because the thing about it is that Black wealth, some of the Black wealth is being stolen right in front of your eyes. Some of it, they're sneaking through the back door at night when nobody's watching, right? And so easy things to spot are like, Black people buying Gucci bags, or the fact that we love to go spend all of our money with white-owned businesses at Christmas time and all that. That's easy stuff. Another easy one is the fact that we dedicate our lives to working for white corporations instead of building our own businesses. Even professional athletes contribute to white wealth because they're sitting around crying over the fact that they can't be owners of NFL teams when none of them have actually sat down and formed a group to go form a professional sports league where Black people can keep the majority of that wealth. So instead, you're bowing to pricks like Jerry Jones, hoping Jerry Jones will one day give you an opportunity to own a piece of what he's got, when the reality is that you got 100% of what you got, right? So we're trying to get 5% of what he got when we could go get 100% of what we got, but we don't even value what we have because we feel that we have to be next to Jerry Jones in order to feel successful. So those are other ways that Black wealth is being drained, but some more sinister ways come from things like student loans, where you're going deep in debt to go to big white universities. So Harvard University can have a $30 billion endowment and HBCUs can go bankrupt. You're also losing Black wealth in the fact that a lot of your families are not sticking together. When your families are broken up, what's happening is that you're losing wealth because you could have actually gotten together and formed entities and businesses and invested together, but instead you're fighting and scrambling and all going out working for white people because you can't actually work together long enough to actually build anything. So building healthy relationships is an important part of Black wealth that we have to pay attention to. We're not paying attention to it because nobody's really talking about it. And I can keep going on and on and on, but I'm not going to do that because sometimes I say so much that it ends up confusing people or feeling overwhelming. And I don't mean to be overwhelming with you, but these are literally the things that are going through my brain on a daily basis. And I'm seeing these things all the time. And I'm hoping that we as a community can become aware of this so you can understand all the different ways that the air is leaking out of the house, right? If you have a house and you've got the heater on all the time and it's on full blast, but your house is still cold, it's because you've got a lot of leaks. You might have a window open, you might have the front door open, but you might have leaks in the walls, in the lining, in the insulation, other kinds of leaks that you're not prepared to see. It takes an expert to identify all the different ways that your room might be leaky. So Black wealth is leaking in 1,000 different ways, and many of us don't have the ability to really see it because, again, the system is so sinister in terms of how they find ways to slowly extract resources out of the Black community. And this is requiring a shift in our thinking because you were built and created to be a commodity for America. You are not here to you are the chicken who was invited over for dinner, but it's a chicken dinner. If you're the chicken and they invite you over for dinner, you better not show up to that dinner because they're gonna have your ass on the table ready to cut you in half and eat you, right? So you're the chicken who thinks he was invited to dinner to actually sit down and eat like everybody else. No, you are the chicken, Negro. Stay home. Don't go to that dinner. Don't sign up for that system because that system is not designed to empower you. That system is designed to eat you and feast off of you and down to the last little bone. Okay. So with that said, anyway, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. Let me keep reading a little bit. I was answering this Black wealth confession about this brother's student loans. How do I make sure my children avoid the same trap I'm in? I don't think he's in a trap. I think that they're requiring him to do 120 months of consistent payments in order to get the debt forgiven. I think that's pretty reasonable. Honestly, I would consider taking that route. Another route I would suggest is that if you are a teacher, really this goes for any educator, professor, anybody any person who has a job. You're always better in this economy if you develop side hustles and other ways to make money. I believe that the ability to start businesses and invest and develop side hustles should be a required skill in order for you to call yourself Black. Joe Biden said, if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't Black. Well, Joe Biden can kiss my entire Black ass. I would say this: if you ain't trying to go out here and learn economics, then you ain't Black. If you're not trying to learn how to build strong, stable families, then you ain't Black. If you're not trying to have healthy relationships with other Black people, then you ain't Black. So how about that? How about we make those requirements for Blackness as opposed to somehow thinking that who you vote for determines your Blackness? I don't care if you voted for Biden, Trump, or an independent in the last election. None of those choices is going to do anything to improve the Black community. We know that that's the case. We've seen this. This is not something I have to explain to you. You have the evidence all around you. So how about we focus on the things that make us better? How about we focus on the things that make us strong and make us whole without allowing other people to tell us what it means to be Black? All right. So with that said, I would say that for this teacher, you are smart. You are capable. There's a reason they hired you for that job. You're a teacher, for God's sake. That means that you've got a lot of stuff in your brain that you probably don't even know has value. What you did not learn as a child, and it's not your fault because you probably went to school and you probably learned from people who didn't care about you, is you never really learned how to monetize what's in your mind. Your mind can be monetized. Like, there's so many skills we have every day that we don't even realize could actually be sold, that people would pay for in order to get that. Like, even I know a lady who who has raised a bunch of kids. Like, I think 3 of her children are like doctors and PhDs. She's a doctor and her husband's a doctor. And her she has 5 kids. 3 of them have PhDs or medical degrees. The other 2 are in PhD programs, right? So I was literally like, do you understand how rare that is, that you're going to have a family with 7 doctors and PhDs in it? Like, that's pretty amazing. And so really, if she wanted to, she could literally teach a class on parenting, how to raise successful kids who grow up and actually bring and value to the family, as opposed to, some of these raggedy kids that some of us have that ain't doing nothing for nobody, right? I don't know about y'all, but everybody has that, right? You got the deadbeats in your family where you're like, man, what is wrong with you? Like, you're adding no value to anything. You're bringing problems and complaints and issues and drama and drug addiction and all this other crap, right? So I would literally was like, you could probably teach people just how to raise children. And she's like, well, I would never teach anybody that. Like, that doesn't seem like a business. I said, well, what's more important to learn in life than family? Like, why wouldn't you? I mean, if I'm paying for a skill, I want a skill that's going to help me right where I stand, right? I want a skill that's going to help me right here in my house to have the better life that I deserve with the people that matter to me, right? So why wouldn't we go to school and simply learn how to have healthy relationships with each other, how to build solid families? Seriously, I think that should be a freaking class. When you see all the chaos and trauma and messed up people out here harming each other, triggering each other, destroying each other, I think literally we should approach that with some intentionality. I really think I really think there should be like in school, in a Black-owned school, there should be a class on how to have a Black family, how to have a healthy Black family. Seriously, that basic stuff, because that's what matters in your life. Those are the things that make a difference between being happy and unhappy. Most of the times when you're depressed, it's usually because either A, you got to get them go work for white people that hate you and they treat you like shit, so you come home depressed every day because they don't give you any opportunities and your income sucks. Or B, you got a crazy ass cousin who's calling you in the middle of the night to borrow money because he done got locked up again, or he done beat up his baby's mama and it needs you to bail him. Whatever, man, just some dumb stuff. You know what I mean? Like, stupid stuff. And it's like, if somebody had raised you right, if you have been raised in an environment where you were taught to be an asset to your loved ones and not a liability, if you were raised to take accountability, if you were raised to be independent and self-sufficient, you wouldn't be such a drag on the other people in your family. But nobody intentionally taught that. Instead, you went to school every day. You learned how to memorize Cardi B lyrics. They taught you all the pronouns for what it means to be gay and straight and transgender. They didn't even teach you how to read, write, do math. They taught you none of the skills that are fundamentally necessary for you to actually be a functioning, successful Black person in this society. But you can't throw a football all the way down the field, and you can shoot 3-pointers like nobody's business. None of those skills is going to help you be a successful or happy person in this society, especially if you're Black. So I think that education, there's something in mathematics that we refer to as dynamic optimization. Dynamic optimization, you guys know I taught math at the University of Kentucky, so I'm not just a guy who's just running his mouth. These are things I've studied. And dynamic optimization works like this. It says that if you want to optimally solve a problem, the way you solve the problem is you start with the end in mind. You start with the objective. You start with where you're trying to go. You don't just sort of jump out here and just start doing stuff, hoping for the best. You start at the end and you work your way back. You say, where do I want to get to? And then you back up, and that tells you what every step needs to be along that process. So when I think about educating a Black child, I think about it from a very practical, direct standpoint. And I say, okay, when that kid is 30, what are the things that are going to matter to him in his life? What's going to matter when he's 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60? Well, wealth and economics is going to be really important. The better trained he is at wealth and economics and financial security, just what it looks like, how to obtain it, where to go get it, all that's going to be important for him. So as a child, we are going to make sure he's drilled on these things so he can be successful in life. What else is going to matter? His health. His health is going to matter, because without health, you can't have anything else, right? So he's going to want to be healthy. So maybe as a kid, we train him on how to stay healthy, how to be mentally healthy. That means things like meditation, yoga, whatever the hell, therapy. Lord knows we need therapy in our community, right? Physical health, right? How do you identify and eat the right foods? Maybe we educate you early on how to eat the right foods. So you'll put down the Popeyes chicken and you'll pick up something that's actually not going to kill you on sight. Relationships. How do you relate to the other people around you? Do you love the Black people around you? How do you relate to your siblings? Are you able to depend on each other? What kind of husband are you? What kind of father are you? What kind of are you taking care of those damn kids? So maybe as a child, we train him on how to run a family. See, for a Black man, especially, and Black women too, your first and most important business you'll ever run is your family. Your first business and the most important business you ever run is your family. If you run that business wrong, everything else is probably going to fail. If you fuck up your family, then it makes everything else 10 times harder to accomplish. Seriously, it's just hard. It's hard to build wealth when you're a baby mama juggling 3 jobs and 4 kids with 4 different daddies. It's just hard. It's hard to stay healthy mentally, physically, and otherwise if you are paying child support for 4 kids with 3 mamas, and got all this drama and crazy people in your life. It's just hard. I'm not saying you can't do it, and I'm not dogging you if you're in that situation. I totally understand. What I'm really talking about is paying it forward. I'm talking about dynamic optimization. I'm talking about thinking about the children, who are, like they said in that song, what was it? Not Curtis Blow, but was it, I forgot which group it was. A child is born with no state of mind, blind to the ways of mankind, right? Well, you got kids who haven't gone through any of that. And this brother who sent this Black Wealth confession asked that basic question. He said, how do I make sure my kids avoid the mistakes that I made? Well, I want to look at that full circle and say it starts with a proper education. That education needs to start with you. Don't ever complain to me about white people not educating your kids properly, because first question I'm going to ask you is, why are they educating your kids in the first place? And why are you not stepping in and taking that shit over? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you're an idiot. You're an idiot if you send your kids to public school. I'm not saying something's wrong with you for sending your kids to college. I get all of that. You can learn good things from white people. They can teach you things like how to build a rocket ship to Mars, or how to go and, I don't know, take over the social media industry, right? Like, they know things, right? And I think it's important to learn those things, but it's also important to learn the most important things first. First things first. First things first means, if I'm raising a Black boy, I'm raising him on how to be a Black man. If I'm raising a Black girl, I'm raising her on how to be a Black daughter or a Black woman. I'm not letting that, I'm not outsourcing that. I'm not outsourcing her humanity to anybody else. I'm not outsourcing his value system to anybody else. That starts at home. And then when he goes out, he can be in the world, but not of the world. He can go out into the world and he knows where home base is at. Home base is right here. Home base is right here with your people. You belong to us. You don't belong to them. So I think those little things are extremely important. I encourage you to consider what I'm saying. You don't have to agree with everything. I'm not right about everything. I'm still figuring things out. But these are the things that I think about on a daily basis. And that's why I'm doing this conversation. That's why I'm answering the question the way that I did. Y'all know me. You give me a simple question, I probably won't give you a simple answer, because dealing with white supremacy ain't simple. I'm not a simple-minded Negro. I'm not interested in being simple-minded, because it's the simple-minded shit that got us to where we are right now. So I hope that this makes sense. That's it. By the way, I'm going to go, guys. If you want to leave me a Black Wealth confession, you can go to blackwealthconfessions.com. If you want to join the event with Jay Morrison on the 23rd, feel free to, there's a link in the bio, or you can go to boycewatkins.com. And also on that page, there's stuff up there. We got programs for children. We have all kinds of things happening in the Black business, stuff on how to grow your own food. We have all kinds of stuff. So feel free to take a look and check it out. God bless you. Love you. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care now. Peace.